Okay, first thing I have to do is apologize with how echoey it is in here and how that might come across in the video because we are in our new apartment. I say we, it's just me. I'm in our new apartment. I have zero furniture. Literally, my TBR cart is my only piece of furniture. I have a blow-up mattress with a hole that I'm sleeping on. So we're mid-move, furniture's coming next week, it's all okay, but the sound is going to be a little echoey, and I'm sorry. Hello everyone, my name is Laura, this is my channel Laura's Little Library, and welcome to today's video, which is another recent reads video. So again, it's been a couple weeks and I've been very busy from house sitting for friends of ours and then moving to a whole different state in a different region of the US. So that was a big long move, and like I said, I am in this apartment. So I've been reading, but I haven't necessarily been doing a lot of reading vlogs or things like that. So I wanted to just talk about what I've been reading, and honestly, it's been very mid. Majority of the books I'm gonna talk about are 3-star books, which is like a bummer. They're not particularly, like, I want to talk about some of these books, but it's also just like, you know, when I do recommendations, they're typically books that are 4 or 5 stars, or they were 3 stars because it was a personal preference as opposed to how I think the book is in itself, like how it was written. So, but I've just been reading so many 3 stars and I want to talk about them because that's such a bummer, and hopefully this fall my reading can be turned around into some more 4 and 5 stars, especially as spooky season comes up. I'm so excited. So let's get to talking about some of these books. Now, pretty much almost all of these were listened to on audio, and most of them I don't have just because I got them from the library on Libby, because that is how I listen to my audiobooks. So they're gonna be here. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Scorpion and the Night Blossom, and this is by Emily Wen Chow, and this was a 3 out of 5 star book. This book followed this girl who lost her parents to like demons, basically, just kind of immortal mythological beings. She is now taking care of her sister because her father was taken, and her mother is like not dead, but just out of commission at the moment. And so there is this trial that happens every so often, and the winner of it gets like this pill of immortality. So she is going to enter in these trials with these immortals to try and win that pill for her mother, so she doesn't have to take care of her baby sister all alone, because So like I said, it was 3 out of 5 stars. It's interesting because I think of the book title and I think, oh, that was such a forgettable book, and then 2 seconds pass and I'm like, no, I remember it, and I enjoyed it. I liked it. There were twists and turns, and those were fun. But the character, I don't know. I couldn't really vibe with the character all that much because it felt like she was kind of slow to understanding what I was understanding, even though we were getting the same information at the same time. And there was just so much mistrust between the characters, which normally would make for a good book, but it was really just mistrust with one specific character when it's like, you're in a competition. You need to mistrust everybody. I don't know. It didn't feel like it was quite it for me. So I didn't like the main character very much, but I did like the premise and I did like the twists and turns that happened. I just think the characters could have been written better. Then I read Glint by Raven Kennedy. This is the second book in this series, and if you remember, I hated the first book. So I read the second book to see if it got better, because I'm reading the series because a good friend of mine really wanted me to, because he loves the series. So I read the second one, and I will say I understand why he likes it, because I think this second book is so much better than the first book. I think the writing improved drastically. I enjoyed reading it just a little bit more. I still had a lot of issues that I had with the first book, of just not being invested, not being drawn in, and just being really annoyed at the characters and everything that's happening. But I will say that it definitely went from the first book being like a 1 or 2 star to this book being a 3 star. It was a solid better book compared to the first one. Now, does that mean I'm going to read the third one? No. I'm done. I'm done. It's just not my personal preference or cup of tea. The third book that I read is A Good Day to Pie, and this is by Misha Pop. This is the second book in the Murder Pies series, trilogy thing, and I did something that I never do with this book. I read the reviews beforehand. I don't normally read reviews of books beforehand. Maybe I'll read them after just to see if like I'm crazy, I missed something, or I love something and I want to hear other people talk about it. But with this book, for some reason, I don't know why, I actually read the reviews, and I'm so glad I did, because so many of the reviews were like, it's the Great British Baking Show, but with like a little bit of murder. You know, it's not the best continuation on the first book, because the first book set up our system really well of who our characters are, the romance arc, the business, the baking, the cutesy, the murder. Like, it did such a good job setting that all up. And then this second book just was a Great British Baking Show, and you lost a lot of the cutesy and the interesting murder. So knowing that going in, I liked the book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, surprise, surprise. I think you didn't need to sacrifice the cutesy and the murder for the Great British Baking Show plot. I think you could have made it a little more interesting if the author had just kept those aspects that made the first book so much fun to read. But because I knew to expect that loss, that the second book wasn't going to be like that. Now there is the third book, and the third book is out, and I did also read reviews for that one, and a lot of the reviews that I read said that it does get back to the first book of being that fun murder, like cutesy baking. So I also knew I wanted to just read the second book to keep going with the like overarching storyline to get back into that third book. So I am very excited to pick up that third book. So if you like the idea of having this adorable baker who sells pies out of her truck and also has a slight murder business on the side, stick through the second book. Read the first one and stick through the second one, because I think the third one's going to be better. Then I also read a book called Mystery Royale, and this is by Caitlin Valencia, and this is basically the inheritance games, but with a little bit of magic. All the rich people who are in this family where the patriarch died, they need to solve his murder, but they all have like magic. And so you're following the one person who like doesn't, who's being brought into this family, and trying to get the inheritance by solving the murder before all these people with magic. But it was a fine book, you know, 3 out of 5. It is the start to a series. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series. It just says number 1, and it had a bit of a cliffhanger, so I was like, okay, yeah, all right. So I'll probably pick up the second book. It was just so inheritance games-esque, which is a fun concept. And the magic was a good addition, but I still wish it had been just a little more interesting and unique to set itself apart from the inheritance games. Then I also continued on with the Finley Donovan series. I read the 5th book, which is Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. I begrudgingly gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Like, it was so close to being so good at putting it at 4 stars. I can't quite put my finger on what held it back specifically, but it started to feel the first couple of books that I read in the series that I absolutely loved. It's starting to head back that way, I think, because you know, around the 3rd and 4th book I was just like, this is getting a little far-fetched, this is getting not quite as fun, I'm having more issues with it. But now in this 5th one, it is starting to come back around on me, and the 6th one has already been announced for early next year, so I am excited to pick that one up, which is really good because I wasn't necessarily excited about the 4th and 5th one. But I like this one. It just brings it back to Finley's home base and brings it back to itself, which I'm excited. I liked that. So it was definitely more of a 3.5 star book for sure. And then this one is a shocker. We do stray from our 3-star reading, but not in a good way. And I'm probably going to receive so much hate for this, but I read Saba Tahir's Air, which is the first book in a duology, and I DNF'd it. It was a book club book for my book club that I participate in, and it took me a while to pick it up because it's been so popular. And when I did, I don't know, I have this with a lot of Sabaa Tahir's fantasy of just, there are too many POVs, too many characters right off the bat, and I can't adjust to it. And then that makes continuing to read harder because I don't know who anybody is and what we're talking about. The concept of air, as in like A-I-R, was interesting, but again, I could not follow it very well. And I was like, you know what? If I'm not following this and I don't care about the characters and I don't even know what the plot is, I'm gonna be done. So I DNF'd it. On Goodreads, that means I don't give it a rating because I didn't DNF it, because I didn't necessarily DNF it out of hate, I just DNF'd it out of it's not for me. And then the last book that I don't own is one of the most recent books that I read, and that is called Water Moon, and this was by Samantha Soto Yambao. And this was much more of like kind of magic realism, but not exactly, because you're following our main character who, she and her father run this pawn shop that only appears to certain people at certain times. And the concept is that you are trading a choice that you made in the past. So it's a very beautiful concept. And then the daughter is all set to take over her father's pawn shop, and she wakes up that morning, he's gone, the place is a mess, and this random person walks into the pawn shop and she's like, I need to find my father because my mother died years ago. He's all I have. He finally retired. And so she and this one other person who just randomly walks into the pawn shop go on a journey through her magical world, because even though the pawn shop is like in our world, she is from like a mythological world. And so they go through a journey of this mythological world to find out what happened to her father. And it's a very romantic book, not in that it's romance, but in that there were so many phrases rumors spreading like wildfires, or train of thought, and the ways to travel to different places. You're jumping through puddles, or like there were just so many beautiful expressions that became very literal in this mythological world, which was really fascinating to read, and I loved it. It was a 3 out of 5 star book just because I have a very hard time with slower books, and it was a slow book for me. Just they're chasing what happened, and they go here and it's a dead end, they go here and it's a dead end, they go here and they make very little progress. So it's very much a character driven book as opposed to a plot driven, and that is just not something that I personally really like. However, I am still very glad I read this. I still think it's a good book, and I would still definitely recommend it if you like either slower paced book or the magical realism or characters. I would definitely recommend it. But for me, it was a 3 out of 5 star. Now we can get into the actual books off my physical TBR that I was able to finally read. Haha, yay! So the first one is The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. I really liked Erin A. Craig's other books, and I went to a book signing of hers right after this came out, and I was like, I need it. This was a 4 out of 5 stars. I will say it started off pretty slow, but then it kind of picked up, and it's one of those books where you're kind of following somebody throughout their life period. You're following the 13th child in this family. She was not wanted, and so her parents are trying to figure out how to get rid of her, basically, and the god of death kind of comes and is like, yeah, she's my godchild, I'll take care of her. So she spends the first few years of her life waiting for her godfather to show up and take her away and give her a better life, even though it's like, he's like the god of death. So he basically trains her to be a healer, and once the plot really got going in this book, I really started to enjoy it because it was a bit thick, and with how slow it was in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It took me quite a while to get into the audiobook of it, but then once I did, then we were cooking with gas. I enjoyed it much more, and it was a 4 out of 5 stars. I also recently read Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez, and this is the second book in this duology. I really loved the first book, so I was really excited when this one came out, and I got a copy of it for my birthday, and I read it, and it was a 2 out of 5 stars. I was quite let down by this book. I think the elements that I loved from the first book were not in this second book. I did not like the romance feature. I felt like we lost a lot of the archaeological adventure of it, and I did not, our main character seemed to just become less independent and more dependent on her romantic interest, and I didn't like how he was written. I did not like how she was written. I didn't like the plot. There was just so much that I didn't really like. So this ended up being a 2 out of 5 stars. I was really sad because I love books like this. Like this right here is my bread and butter, my cup of tea. I love it. So I was really disappointed reading this and just being like, I don't like what happened? Oh, it was so disappointing. Speaking of sequels, I did then also read The Blood Orchid, and this is by Kylie Lee Baker. This is the second book after The Scarlet Alchemist. I was really nervous to get this book, or to pick up this book. It was gifted to me by my Secret Santa that long ago because I loved the first book so much. It was 5 out of 5 stars. I loved everything about it, so I was really nervous picking up this second book, and I gotta say, it was 4 out of 5 stars. I did very much enjoy it. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as the first one, but that just is what happens most of the time with me and any sort of series, duology, trilogy. The first book is always the best because that's when you have the most amount of world building and meeting of the characters and understanding the magic system. So this duology takes place in historical China, but with the idea that alchemy is actually real. So it is still fantasy, but the author did include a lot of really cool, accurate historical elements, which was very interesting, and I loved reading about that in the author's note at the end of these. I thought it continued on the story great. I loved the relationship between the characters. I was very happy to read this. I just wasn't as excited about it as I was the first one, but I did really like this book. The final book that I just finished reading, I finished reading this yesterday. I am so happy I did. It took me a while to read it because the first half I read physically because I was like, I'm gonna read physically. But I just got so busy over the past couple weeks getting ready to move. And so the audiobook for this actually came in, so I was like, okay, I'll finish listening to it, and I'm so glad I did. And that was The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the companion book to The Spell Shop. In this one we are actually following the librarian who created Kaz, the spider plant. So this is her story after she created Kaz, what happened to her. She got turned into a statue, and then she wakes up in this greenhouse and is like, what is even going on? So it had all the same love and charm as The Spell Shop. It was so sweet. I loved it so much. This is a 5 out of 5 stars. The coziness, the characters, the gruff greenhouse gardener with this sunshiny, I am a people person and you are a man of no words, and we're the only 2 people on this island along with this winged cat, so let's figure this out. Was amazing, and just the environment of the greenhouses was spectacular and beautiful and interesting. I love the plot, I love the characters, and it did a great job setting up for the 3rd companion in this series that is coming out next year. I cannot wait to read it. Oh, it's just so cute and cozy. So I only have glowing praises about these 2 books so far, so I cannot wait for the 3rd one. Yeah, I absolutely adored it. I'm so happy that I finally finished reading this. So those are all the books that I have read recently. Thank you all very much for watching. I am so excited to head into spooky season in these next couple of weeks. I will hopefully start posting. I will continue posting regularly, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, just as I am starting school next week. And like I said, I have no furniture, which is why this is super echoey, and I apologize for that, but as soon as we get some furniture and some rugs in here, maybe another bookshelf even, it'll be a lot better, and I'm just so ready for that to happen. So thank you all very much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts on these books were, or if you need to chat about some of your recent reads, let me know what you've been reading recently in the comments. If you like bookish content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified. Like I said, I'm trying to post a video every week, but in this time of change, I'm doing my best. So just hit the bell to be notified when videos go up and subscribe so that you can see them and hopefully enjoy them. So thank you for watching, and until I see you in the next video, I wish you happy reading.